The meeting shall begin. We have determined that there are 6 board members in East Peoria, 6 board members here, 1 in Coal Valley and 1 in Wheeling. So we are pretty well divided between the various locations, and we welcome you all to the meeting today. John, can you do a roll call?
Sure. Sarah, are you here? She was supposed to be absent. Murray.
Present.
Dave.
Present.
Karen.
Present.
Bill.
Present.
Kate.
Present.
Nan.
Here.
Mary Jo.
Here.
Kathy.
Here.
Carrie.
Here in Wheeling.
Susan.
Here in Coal Valley.
Just do it. These are all on
John.
myself.
Ben.
Here.
Laura. Here. And Dane.
Here.
Thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is the recognition of guests and announcements. So why don't we start with you in East Peoria? Guests and announcements.
Okay, Dee Brennan, Rails.
Jane Plass, Rails.
Kendall Orison, Rails.
Mary Witt, Rails.
Jim Krieger, Rails.
Ann Slaughter, Rails. Amanda Gray, Rails.
Brian White, Peoria Public Library.
Randy Turner, Peoria Public Library.
Roberta Koszelski, Peoria Public Library.
Leanne Johnson, Peoria Public Library.
Ryan Hebel, Rails.
Elizabeth Wild, Henry Public Library. Beth Dutlinger, Lily M. Evans Library in Princeville. Amy Falaz Peterson, Fond du Lac District Library in East Peoria. Debbie Baskey, Rails.
Rose Chalmers, Rails.
Susan Dracy, Chillicothe Public Library.
Kim Bunner, Harlan Ingersoll Public Library in Canton, Illinois.
Janice Sherman, Morton Public Library.
Amanda Masaccio, Rails. Harriet Zippel, Galesburg Public Library.
Beth Whammer, Rails. Suzanne Drucker, Rails.
Grant Frederickson, Illinois Prairie District Public Library.
That's us.
Sounds like a wonderful turnout in East Peoria. Emily,
Yeah,
why
we've
don't
got a
you?
lot of people here.
Good.
Emily Feister, Rails.
Art Brooks, Rails.
Wesley Smith, Rails.
Deborah Mitchner, Rails.
Sharon Wilson, Rails.
Danberg, Sickich.
Any guests in Wheeling?
No, there are not.
Okay. And any guests in Coal Valley?
No, there are not.
All right. Thank you. Any public comments? Any public? No public other than staff here in and Dan here in Fur Ridge. Any public comments in Bolingbrook? Is there anybody in Bolingbrook? Coal Valley?
No.
Any public comments in East Peoria? And thank you all for such a wonderful turnout. Public comments
I
in
don't
East
think so.
Peoria? All
I
right.
don't think so.
Okay. Rockford, is there anyone in Rockford? Wheeling?
None.
And then Illinois State Library. Sorry, we didn't announce you earlier, so why don't we announce the Illinois, who's attending from the Illinois State Library?
Hi there, it's Ann Craig.
Cindy Coletti.
Lauren Tucker.
Karen Egan, Pat Bowes.
And Tom Huber is joining us too, but he just stepped out for a moment. Thank you.
Thank you. The agenda, is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, moved by Ben, seconded by Dave to adopt the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of the board minutes, financial reports, and expenditures. The board minutes of the August 29, 2014 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Are we doing regular and closed?
You have to do them separately.
We'll do them separately.
Separately. Okay. I will make a motion to approve the August 29th regular meeting minutes.
Motion by Kate,
I'll second.
second by Kathy. Is there any discussion on the minutes, the regular minutes of August 29th? Any discussion in East Peoria? Coal Valley and Wheeling?
I was not present.
Okay. There's no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye to approve the regular meeting board minutes of August 29th.
Aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of August 29th, 2014?
I'll move.
Moved by Kathy,
I'll second.
seconded by Kate. Any discussion on the closed session meeting minutes? Yes. Get that all together there. Any discussion in any of the sites on the closed session minutes?
Nope.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Item 6.2 is the Rails financial report. Jim, we're waiting with open ears.
Afternoon. You have in your packet the financial report for the month of August. Not too many significant items. Our cash balance decreased by $0.6 million during the month, and most likely will continue to decline through the rest of the year, or through the rest of the calendar year, as we receive most of our area and per capita grant payments in the second half of the fiscal year, unless the trend accelerates some more. Let's see, in our cash balance cash and investment balances still represents over 26 months of general fund operations, so we're still in a very healthy position. Our total expenditures of just under $1.9 million were $203,818 below budget. The areas below budget were contractual services, professional services, and personnel. Our personnel is lower because of delayed hirings. We've made, I believe, all but one of these hirings now, so that will start to level out as we go forward. Our contractual services, much of that is the innovative experts and support to member libraries to join LSAPs. We haven't made expenditures on those areas yet, although we are working on the LSAP program. Support. And I think that's pretty much it. We continue to purchase material for the eBooks program. We made purchases of just under $48,000 thus far. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions here for Jim? Any questions in East Peoria for Jim and the financial report? Wheeling?
No questions.
Coal Valley? No questions, I guess, Jim. Is there a motion to approve the financial report?
So moved.
Murray, motion.
I'll second.
Second for Dave. Any further discussion on the financial report? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. Any nay or abstentions? Motion carries. Next is the expenditure report, Jim.
You have attached a listing of expenditures for the month of August, which totaled $802,472.63. Do I have any questions on the details?
It's Kate, Jim, in, where are we? We're in Burr Ridge. That's where we are. I don't know if my question is a question for you or more for Dee. But I was curious because as I was looking through things, I was wondering if there was a way that we could, and maybe this is more in the operations report, but have a listing of the grants that were awarded now that we have the LSAP grants that are being done, the CE grants, the Management Association ones, to better separate those out so we can kind of see how those are, unless I missed that, which is entirely possible. But just so that we can kind of see where, where we're spending that money and who it's going to.
Yeah, we've developed codes for those type of programs, but like on the LSAP, the grants to join LSAPs, we haven't made any yet. But as we do that and they become significant, I'll start adding reports that can show that type of activity to the main report.
Fantastic. Thanks,
So the
Jim.
answer-
Same thing for the innovation experts as we start doing that business.
Okay.
Right, so the answer is yes, absolutely.
And Kate's question made me think of a question. It's about the E-rate grant. I remember you reporting to the board that you had applied for the E-rate grant. When does that funding start to show up in revenue then? Have we seen that in revenue?
Program?
Yeah, the E-rate program.
We're still working on those. Those funds, the funds that we get in fiscal year 15 apply to their fiscal year 13, I believe it is. It's about
Very
2 years late.
complicated. Yeah.
So I think we'll be receiving that in October, November. And that will show up as an other revenue item.
Yeah, I didn't.
It is
I
budgeted.
had seen it yet.
No, it hasn't come. And I will make a point that in the month that it does come, I'll put that into the report to draw your attention to it.
Thanks.
Their fiscal year starts in October, so that's when the funding cycle
Should
begins
come.
again, but we'll certainly highlight
It's a long process
Yeah.
from when you first start applying to when you get some funds.
Yeah. And it's no fun.
Jim, can I ask a question about that? Follow up from Karen?
Sure.
Kathy has
This is
a question.
Kathy. I want to follow up on Karen's question. So, we've already completed a round of the E-rate applications for 1 year, like last year?
Yes.
Okay, so we're receiving it as a lump sum, not as a discount on our monthly bills? Is that how we decided to do it?
We went
Okay.
for the lump sum. Easier to know
All right, great. Thank
exactly
you.
what you got from it.
Right.
Any other questions for Jim? No other questions, and is there a motion that the board approve the check voucher register for July 2014 in the amount of $472.63?
August.
It's
August. Sorry, it should be August. I know it's
August,
wrong
yes.
on the paper.
It says July.
Yeah, sorry
here, but
about
it
that.
says-
Yep.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ben,
I'll second.
seconded by Kathy.
This probably requires it.
Roll call vote. John, can you handle the roll call vote?
Murray,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes?
Kate,
Yes.
Nan,
Yes.
Mary Jo,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
John, yeah. Ben,
Yes.
Motion
Laura.
carries.
and Dane.
I guess I don't.
You gotta wait, Bill.
Now the motion carries. Sorry about that.
Guess it didn't matter what I said.
Next item on the agenda is committee reports and reports from the president and the committee chairs and the executive director and so forth. First on the agenda is report from the Rails president. I have nothing to report on at the present time other than that things are going well. Second is committee chairs. Consortia Committee, John.
We will be meeting October 20th. The subcommittee's meeting October 10th.
Correct.
Is that correct? And they will be reviewing any of the responses to the RFP. So,
Which are due today.
Which are due today, and so far we've received at least 3.
Oh, good.
Good.
we'll have more information at the end of October.
Thank you, John. Kate, Delivery Committee.
I am working with Dee to get a meeting set up for the delivery committee in the next few weeks / month. So we will hopefully have more news soon.
Okay, thank you. Executive Committee. The Executive Committee has not had occasion to meet, so no report there. Operations Committee, Ben.
We have not met, so I have nothing to report.
And the Policy Committee, Mary Jo.
We have not met.
No report then. Next item on the agenda is 7.3, the Executive Director's Report. Dee?
Yes, thank you, Bill. Well, let's see. We have my report. I'm trying to think if I have. Kate was asking about grants to the LSAPs, or for libraries to join LSAPs. You'll see that we have a very happy outcome of our first round with approximately $100,000 being requested from libraries who are in various stages of getting ready to join an LSAP. And since then, just in the last few hours at this meeting, at this lovely event here in East Peoria, we've talked to a couple of other libraries that may be interested in applying in the next round. So we're doing this quarterly. So we're really pleased about that. I don't have a lot more to add. I would say that we did get an email from this morning from the State Library, as has become tradition, on the day of the board meeting, saying that they have approved, finally approved. Really totally approved our area and per capita grant, and appreciated responses to questions that they had asked us to respond to. They did have one suggestion, which was a great one, that we establish a video conferencing site in the city of Chicago. And obviously great minds think alike, because just this week Mary and Ann Slaughter were down in Chicago looking at a site. So we are, that is underway as well. So, and as I said in my report, Debbie Baskey is going to, perhaps, are you, okay, are you, yes? Yeah. So Debbie's going to give you a brief report on some of her activities as member engagement manager. She's been extremely busy. Do you want to sit here? You want to sit there?
No, I'm going
okay.
to just stand.
You're going to stand, okay.
I just hurt my back like Debbie. 10 minutes ago, so that's why I'm walking a little bit strange. Sorry about that. So I just wanted to give you all an update on what I've been up to in the last 2 months and some of the things I'm working on, I'm planning. And I did develop a site visits plan for the Rails staff. As you know, our goal is to visit 20% of our members this year, and we're well underway. And our staff are tracking our visits in the CRM, and hopefully we'll include follow-up for any visits. And it's a really good way for us to track that information, especially from year to year. And we can see what libraries we visited, look at different areas, see where we need to do more visits. So I think it'll really be very helpful information for us for comparison's sake in the future. Many staff do library visits, not just me. I did want to mention sort of the areas that I'm focusing on personally, and that's the academic libraries, the special libraries, the school libraries, as well as new directors at any type of library, and libraries not visited in FY14 that fit into that category. And of course, libraries that ask me to come for a visit or request a visit, I'm happy to go there. And so far, like I said, I've been there less than 2 months. I've been to 11 different libraries for visits. I have 18 scheduled in the next 2 months, and we schedule more every day, so it's been a lot of fun. And some of the areas that I've been focusing on are, and have visits planned in the near future, are Galena and Freeport, Peoria, Rock Island, Quincy. So I truly am trying to get around the system and visit different libraries and different types. And it's been fun, exciting, interesting, and so it's a great endeavor for all of the staff to work on, and we're working hard to get out there and meet our members and work with them. Also, the library networking groups. This is interesting. I find out about new networking groups every day. There are a lot out there. We do have many of them listed on our website, but they are not all listed there. So to try to make that list more comprehensive, we're working on that. And also, it's a great opportunity for us to attend networking groups as well, to meet more library staff. Some of the groups I've been talking to and attending their meetings are CASLIN, which is a Chicago area school librarians group, the Long Distance Librarians, Libraries Working Together, Chicago area special librarians, assistant directors, sales. So again, another great way to get out there where the library staff are already meeting, and we can talk to them about rail services, what their needs are. So that's been a great opportunity as well. We are trying to get that list to be more comprehensive on our website. So that's one of the things that we're working on now as well. And many of the groups do post their meetings on L2, but many do not. So there are more groups out there that probably want to be on L2 and want to be listed on our website. So we are working on that. I've also reached out to some of the organizations in Illinois, such as SLA Illinois, IACRL, ISLAMA. I'm working with SLA Illinois on an October webinar, talking to the members of that group on the benefits of system membership and what Rails can do for them. So that'll probably be at the end of October. So that's pretty exciting. Also visiting with the LSAPs as well as the independent consortia that are throughout our region. So some of the quarterly meetings or the networking meetings, I've attended some of those and will continue to make that a priority to get out there and visit those groups as well. I did attend an RSA meeting, which was nice, and they were very welcoming, which I appreciated that. And I know that I'll be attending a SWAN CERC meeting in the near future. So that's been great to get out and visit those groups as well. As you know, that we've done some networking events. I've attended the last two with Dee, Fox Lake, and St. Charles. We have another one coming up on October 23rd. That's the Marian Catholic High School event, and we'll be planning more in the near future. If you want to host one of those, please let me know. I am currently working on one for November 14th at UIC, so in Chicago. That one would be networking as well as a more formal CE type event as well. So that'll be pretty exciting. So more information to come on that. And then I also wanted to mention our networking event at ILA, which we're calling FaceTime. And that will be October 16th, which is the Thursday, from 9 to 10 a.m. in the Convention Center. And those are convened talk tables with different topics. Assistant directors will have a table, outreach, marketing, maker spaces, and it's just a good opportunity for people to come together that are attending the conference and talk about similar issues or things that concern them. And I talked to different people and got good facilitators for each table. So I highly recommend you come to that. And we are up against a free continental breakfast in the exhibit hall, but we will have food. So you won't miss out on food. So please come to that. And that's what I've been up to over the last 2 months. So it's been pretty busy. Any questions that I can answer?
Any questions, Burr Ridge? Any questions there in East Peoria? Wheeling?
No questions, thank you.
Coal Valley?
No, no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie and Dee.
Camera off while I get back to
The next item on the
yes.
agenda is the, pardon?
I guess you're done, Dee.
He's not done.
Still
The
D.
Service
I was
and
just going
Operations
to-
Report.
Yes, thank you. I would just, first of all, like to just thank the East Peoria staff for helping out with this event. Yeah. And thank you, all the attendees. Thank you, Emily, up there in Burr Ridge, for you and your buddies working on this. So that's one thing. The operations report, I did just want to draw your attention to we did have a meeting a couple of weeks ago with Baker and Taylor that we thought was very productive. They are continuing to enhance Access 360, the e-read platform, and working on, as we put it to them, reducing any and all barriers for libraries to join. And so we're waiting to hear what that might be, which probably will involve, reductions in cost or something, right? So, and I don't remember if you heard from Debbie, you heard all of those wonderful things. So I don't think I have anything else to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about the operations report.
Any questions on the operations report?
Yeah, just a comment just about the Peoria turnout is so great. It makes me wonder whether maybe we should meet here all the time.
You would like
I'll vote for that.
Well, and if we tell the people in Burr Ridge what a good time we had last night. Missed it.
Yeah.
We're all sorry we missed it. Next item on the agenda is the Illinois State Library Report. Ann?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'll kick off our report by saying that October, wow, what a month. It is really shaping up.
National meeting.
Shaping up to be something else. Not only do we have the Illinois Library Association Conference, but also our I Lead You conference is in October, and we have a Veterans History project, a ceremony as well. So it's going to be quite a month, but wait, there's more. Try It Illinois. Try It Illinois begins October 1 and runs through November 30. If you don't know about Try It Illinois, it's wonderful. It is 2 months of access at no charge to us, no charge to libraries, for databases from all kinds of vendors. It's really, really a wonderful, wonderful project. We get a lot of great comments. We think the vendors get something out of it as well. They get to showcase their wares. And it is the case that it's right during term paper time. So if you haven't heard of Try It, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to say this, try it. Yeah, that was bad. Okay, our digital imaging grants are due October 1. We are preparing for that process, the review session. We've just like Rails and Heartland, we fielded a lot of questions about the application, about the effort itself, and we are looking forward very much to getting that going on October 1st. The public library per capita grants, we are really eager to have 100% participation in this program. We have full funding of this appropriation of this grant, and we're eager to get that money out there. So that is due October 15th, and we're working very closely with your colleagues there at Rails to hound everybody to ensure that everybody gets their application in. Right, Dee?
Right, absolutely. Right.
There you go. We want to be sure you know about our Just Desserts reception during ILA here in the atrium. It's on Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Karen Egan is one of the conference chairs. So we're hopeful that we will see many of you, and we can feed you desserts and talk and have fun. We have a whole list of ILA-related things that are published in our e-news this week. I also want to tell you we're keeping it on the down low because we're getting ready to release a press announcement about it. But we did receive our grant. It's a planning grant from IMLS for serving people with autism, on the autism spectrum, I should say. And this is, yeah, we're really excited. It's called a Forum Grant from IMLS, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and it's $100,000. This planning grant allows you to convene a group of people to help plan an application, a project, a program that ultimately results in a much larger national leadership grant application, which I'm not sure there's a cap on those, 500,000, $1 million, and they can stretch for 3 years. The grant we received, which was competitive, that is a 1-year, $100,000 grant. So I don't know if any of you remember me saying that we were hoping for a three-peat. We were hoping that we would get our waiver from IMLS, which we did, to meet our maintenance of effort. We were hoping we'd get our iLeadU grant to extend iLeadU to other state libraries, and we did. And I was hoping we'd get our autism grant, and we did. So we had a three-peat from IMLS. So we were very pleased with that news. But like I said, we're not making a big announcement yet in hopes that we'll get that press release out soon. So I'll turn to my colleagues and ask them what they have to add, if anything. Okay. Can you tell I've had some coffee today?
Not at all.
Obviously.
I have a question.
Thank you very much, Ann. Question?
I have a question for Ann. This is Nan in East Peoria. I'm very curious how many libraries, in terms of a number, do not submit per capita grant applications?
Well, last year, after the application closed on October 15, we had, what, Lauren, about 15 or 20?
Yes.
That we sought their understanding, their compliance, their application, because boy, we really want to make sure we get this money out the door. I don't know how familiar you are with this piece of legislation, but it is a maximum that is hardwired into the actual law that says the cap on this is $1.25 per capita. Now, we have full funding of that for every single public library in this state. So we want to be sure that the legislature knows we can get this money out the door and that they keep giving it to us at that amount. It's really, really important. Cindy just reminded me, last year we had 4 public libraries that did not submit their public library annual report. This is a statutory requirement that libraries must submit this annual report, and we had 4 that did not do it last year. So we've worked very, very closely with both systems this year to ensure that we really are on top of it before the deadline.
And out of curiosity with that, are these my assumption is that they're probably very small part-time libraries that do this, or do you have any surprises and you find that it's big libraries that are remiss in their responsibility?
It was a mixture last year.
Okay.
And I think, just like all of us, there are a number of things that demand our attention. And I think unless it's waving at you every day, I think it's one of those things that's easy to let slip by. So thank you to all the public libraries that have have given us your public library per capita grant application, that have done your annual report. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Any other questions for the State Library? Thank you, Ann, and staff. We appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is new business. And the 8.1 is the annual report, board approval for submissions to the Illinois State Library. Dee, would you bring us up to date on that?
Yes, thank you, Bill. And I just want to say congratulations, Ann, on the autism grant, on all the grants. That's great. So it's great for the libraries, great for the end users. So the annual report is voluminous. Basically, it is documentation of what we did in 2014, which, as you all know, since you were getting operational reports, etc., every month, we accomplished quite a lot. But just to sort of remind you of a few things, across the board, we did upgrade the Polycom system that we're currently using. We got the RSA servers moved to CMS, which was a complicated project that Kendall led. The consortia committee started its work. We're waiting on the next phase of that. We did do outsourced delivery at Burr Ridge, and that's going well. And as Kate said, the delivery committee is going to be meeting. We launched the Illinois Talking Book Outreach Center, the new consolidated version of the Talking Book services. We did our strategic plan. We did our second round of certification, and it went really well this year. We got a new phone system throughout Rails, which enabled, brought us all together and is more efficient and less expensive and just, makes it easier for members as well as staff. We got CE and consulting started. Joe Filipek has done a great job in really a small number of months at getting CE and consulting moving, both with programs, some of the new things that he's been launching with the Management Association, the HR consulting. We're starting to get applications for that. Working with the CE groups, as Debbie described. Our partnership with Lyrasis, we've been giving you statistics on libraries that attend their offerings, which I'm glad to see that a lot of academic members are taking advantage of that. We attended and exhibited at a lot of conferences, which was great for us in meeting our members. Of course, eRead was a huge project. Working on records retention, that is ongoing. Jody Rubel spends a lot of time sitting in the filing cabinet hallway at Burr Ridge working on that. And we did manage to visit, I think, 17% of our members, 17 or 18%. So it's been a busy year. The annual report, as I said, it is voluminous. I hope you enjoyed reading it. And I would be happy to answer any questions about it.
Any questions in Burr Ridge on the annual report? We all have a copy of it, so I haven't read it all yet, but anybody in East Peoria have any questions on the annual report? Wheeling, annual report?
No questions, thank you.
All right, thanks, Gary. And Coal Valley, any questions on the annual report?
No questions, but recognition and sincere appreciation for doing it. Looks great.
Quite an accomplishment, yes.
So, Bill?
All right.
Bill?
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
So, and I should say that this, so we're asking the board to approve
To
this.
approve, right.
So that we can submit it to the state library by the deadline of September 30th.
That's what we were just about to do. Is there a motion
right,
for
just making sure.
board approvals for submission to the Illinois State Library of the annual report?
I will happily, unless Murray, you want to happily make the motion to approve the annual report and dittoing Susan's kudos to Dee and the rest of the rail staff for all of the work that they did this year.
Kate made the motion and Murray seconded. Any further discussion on the annual report? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? Nay? Abstentions? The approval passes for submitting the annual report.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the discussion and board acceptance of the annual audit. And Dee and Jim, we'll let you start from there.
Okay,
Dan Berg is with
thank
us.
you, Bill. Yes. I guess I will just say that it is posted on the website. We do have some paper copies here and at Burr Ridge. We can certainly supply them for anybody who would like one. I think that's all I will say about the audit. I will let Jim and Dan handle it.
I don't think I have too much to add, although it went smoothly, and the numbers that are in this report are very are in line with what we initially reported at the July board meeting as our preliminary, with the exception of some expenditures that came in during the month of July and August that pertained to fiscal year 14, which was expected, but no real surprises or adjustments. And I will turn it over to Dan for some comments.
Dan is to my left here, so we'll let Dan proceed.
Thanks, Jim. And I would like to echo Jim's comments. This is our third year doing the audit for Rails, third audit of Rails, and it definitely went very smoothly. Staff did a very nice job, Sharon and Bill and Jim, of getting us the materials that we needed on a timely basis and responding to our questions and requests for invoices and receipts and questions on their work papers. So I really appreciate the timely delivery of those items and quick responses. That enabled us to get the final report to you for today's meeting. In the past, sometimes we've gotten a draft to you. Timeline is pretty condensed and tight to get these documents finalized in time for the meeting, but we were able to do that and include Jim's MD&A in the report. If you haven't had a chance to review this, I would strongly recommend that you start with Jim's MD&A as a primer, if you will.
MD&A stands for? Management Discussion and Analysis.
Thank you. And if I throw out any more acronyms, step on my toe or something. We are required to put an MD&A in the reports. Oftentimes, management chooses not to if there isn't enough to talk about, and then we amend our opinion to simply tell the reader not to look for it. This is a really good recap of the year. It also compares the financial status and results of operations to the prior year. The Rails has nothing but black ink again this year. There are a couple of items that I would like to direct your attention to. The first being that the e-read grant was incorporated this year, and the budget was amended to accommodate that grant. $621,000 was recognized as revenue during the year for that grant, and almost $500,000 was deferred to the current year, to 2015. So that shows up as a liability, a deferred revenue, unearned revenue. The other item that I wanted to direct your attention to is on page 4 of the report is the statement of net position. The very bottom of the page is the actual net position. The investment in capital assets is down to $3.2 million. That was nearly $5 million, a little over $5 million in the prior year, and that number includes the sale of East Peoria's facility, but not the Geneva facility. That took place in July. So we included that as a subsequent event footnote, as the very last footnote. But that will further reduce this number. So what that tells the reader is that the capital assets are becoming a smaller and smaller portion of the total assets that Rails has at its disposal. We do have $23.6 million in usable, spendable net position, and that is up from last year by $2.8 million. Additionally, fund balances are at on page 6 are almost $2.4 million, and on page 8 that shows that it has increased from operations by $4.3 million. Then we add in the sale of East Peoria of $1.6 million, and we have a $5.9 million increase in fund balance. So obviously, as Jim said, 26 months as of the end of August in cash. As of June 30, 2014, Rails is in an enviable position of having a great deal of reserves. The only other item that I wanted to point out during this presentation is the IMRF. We have in the required supplementary section of the report on page 25 is the trend schedule for IMRF, and we're showing that Rails is at almost 110% funded. The contribution reduced from a little over $500,000 to just a hair under $450,000. With that type of funding ratio, that may continue, and that may continue to trend downward. The interesting thing is that IMRF uses a 5-year smooth asset recognition policy, valuation policy. So that would include some of the poorer years of assets that were brought over from the legacy systems. If we used a market value only valuation for the assets attributable to Rails, Rails would be funded at 150%. So that's I don't know how many library members are over 100%. I would assume none or very, very, very few. Most of my clients are in the 70s. Some are lower, some are significantly higher, but that's definitely something that that you should be proud of, even though you don't really get to influence that too much, but it looks good for the future. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the process or about the products you have before you. This year did include a single audit. We have need to tweak that a bit. Jim found an error in it, and so we're pulling those back, and we'll deliver them on Monday to Jim in electronic form, so that this report, along with the board communication and the single audit can all be submitted to the state on Monday.
Any questions for Dan or Jim?
In Coal Valley, I would have a question, please.
Go ahead, Susan.
Sir, if you were to identify a weakness of the organization, what would come to your mind?
You know, we didn't have any management letter comments that we felt necessary to bring to the attention of the board. There's a couple things here and there that we discussed with staff during the course of the audit to tweak, very small items. Nothing really jumps to mind. A few years ago, when the organization was just starting, we had a number of recommendations on the general ledger, bookkeeping, procedures, and all of those suggestions have been implemented. The one thing we worried about back then was how many capital assets and what they were coming over from the legacy systems and how those will be disposed of, but it seems that the system has gotten a pretty good handle on that over the years. It seemed to have a little bit of a potential for some problems, but that hasn't really occurred. So I don't really have anything that jumps to mind. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's
and
good.
follow-up question. Follow-up question to Dee. Follow-up question
Has a
to Dee,
follow-up
please.
question?
Dee, in light of the information that we've received from the audit, do you see any impact on our strategic planning efforts?
That's a good question, Susan. I think I would say I would probably want to think about it a little bit, but certainly we were taking into account things like the reduction, selling buildings and becoming more nimble, and we also have a goal in our strategic plan about stewardship and organizational excellence. So I think that the information that you have received today is an indication that we are doing a good job of both of those. I can't think of anything specific. Certainly I remember one activity was related to investments, investing of some of our cash to get a slightly higher interest rate, which we have done, and the board has approved that, as you know. So we may find ways to to add to our ability to do that. I suppose it will be interesting if the Federal Reserve Board actually raises interest rates next year. But I would say, other than that, I can't think of anything right now, Susan. But I will think about it. Thanks for asking.
Yes,
Just-
and then
just
follow
one
up
comment
again.
on that.
Yes.
Yes.
Just one comment on the internal controls. We do practice a separation of duties within the accounting department. We don't have one person that does the accounting for any one entity, the entire accounting. We just further diversified in that we have an accounting specialist now that will do all the billing activities for the LSAPs and rails. We have a separate person who prepares the accounts payable, but it is reviewed and I run the checks. And very, very little money ever touches our hands as the LSAP payments and our payments are all directed to a lockbox, so it goes directly to a bank. So we really try to minimize any opportunity for mismanagement of funds or our mismanagement of the accounting process. And I think we've been successful.
Definitely.
Would there be appropriate benchmarking organizations that we could look to?
For what?
Just for comparables.
Being comparable financial statements?
Yeah,
Or,
it's wonderful to pat ourselves on the back and say, gee, aren't we great, compared to what?
Really,
it's a good question.
there isn't another organization in the state that I can think of that does what you do or has the similar aspects to their operations. I could check with my partners to see if they have one, but I think the best tool you can use right now is the budget. Compare yourself to how you predicted you would do, and use that as a barometer in the short term, in the strategic plan in the long term.
Thank you.
A comment, though, I would think the most comparable entity in the state would be the other library system.
Quite a bit smaller, though, and because of that size and offerings. It's difficult to compare in some ways. I mean, that would be the obvious, but the comparison is.
It doesn't apply everywhere. I mean, obviously, in terms of funding and, yeah.
And I just have a small question. I was so happy to hear about the IMRF piece, but it says that there's only 5 retirees and beneficiaries currently receiving benefits. Does that mean there's only been 5 people retire since Rails came together as itself? What happened to all the legacy people? And what is Rails liability and those pieces?
When an individual retires, the note that you're referring to is regarding the other post-employment benefits, which would be the individuals that no longer work for the system or the legacies that are still on the insurance. So those are it's not quite the same as IMRF. What happens with IMRF is when an individual retires, their liability and their assets get removed from the Rails ledger, if you will, and put into a pool of retirees almost at a one-to-one relationship. So they remove, just make dollars round, $1 million from the assets of Rails and $1 million of the liability, and put those in a separate pool. So those numbers are not reflective in the numbers that were on page 125, or on page 25. The legacy retirees and the Rails retirees are outside of these numbers, if you will.
So these good numbers
except for the other post-employment benefits.
Be impacted. Good.
And that funding ratio is showing up in the rates that we are being assessed, because the rate is going down to just over 4% next calendar year. And it's been as high as 12 or 13% when we first started out.
Yeah.
So that's a combination of, IMRF has had good investment experience, but our components of our employee workforce are also good. And we've been funding it.
Excellent. I mean, I really wanted to know it really was that excellent.
Right.
Not smoking mirrors.
And even as it was going down, you were very cautious and didn't reduce our amount that we paid into, that we budgeted to, until we were sure that it really was going down, because that was not the experience,
But when they've notified us, and then they notify us about 9 months ahead of time, and so the first time or two I stayed with the higher amount, but they were right on when the rate did come. So we did budget a blended rate this year.
Good.
Any other questions on the audit? If there are no other questions, is there a motion to accept the audit?
I'll move.
So moved by Kathy. Second by Ben. Any further discussion on acceptance of the annual audit? All those in favor signify by, pardon? Do we need, doesn't say roll call.
We need roll calls.
No.
We're accepting the report.
Should be a
we're
roll
not
call.
spending
Should be.
That's all.
She is saying it should be.
Should be a roll call. Okay. John, would you do a roll call, please?
Murray.
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
Nan.
You bet.
Mary Jo.
Yes.
Kathy. Yes. Carrie.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
John, yes. Ben.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
And Ding.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Dan. And if you don't need to stay for the rest of the meeting, if you don't desire to, and thank you very much for your presentation.
Although we are
Thank
pretty
you. Yeah, well, I got to get that single audit to Jim, so.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
Thank you for having me, and as always, if any questions crop up in the future, don't hesitate to get in contact with me. I'd be happy to take your calls.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Next item on the agenda is number 9, unfinished business, an update on the library system proposed rules changes from D.
Yes, thank you, Bill. As you will remember, we did have a long conversation about the proposed rules changes at our last board meeting. And then on September 4th, the Illinois State Library Advisory Committee did meet to discuss and endorse the proposed rules changes. Just prior to that, the State Library did issue a extensive revision of their proposal, and so that was discussed at the committee meeting on September 4th, and it was endorsed by the committee. So that what happens next is that it goes to the at some point it will be indexed or published in the official state place that I forget the name of which it is. The Register. Thank you.
Illinois Register.
Illinois Register. Thank you. All I could think of was the Federal Register, and I knew that was it. And at that point, a formal review process of 45 days will begin, and before it goes to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. And I'm hoping that the State Library will correct anything that I say that is wrong about that. There was a lot of discussion at the ISLAC, the Illinois State Library Advisory Committee meeting. A lot of people attended the meeting in person. A lot of people attended the meeting around the state. The revisions were certainly very good. They have included continuing education and consulting back in the services. There were a number of other changes that were made related to the need to belong, the need to belong to an LSAP. That phrase was removed. Other, changes that had been very important to members. So that was excellent. I think that the members still have concern about some of the reciprocal borrowing requirements, but at this point, we are not sure at Rails whether the confusion or the concerns that some members have are really related to the actual, like the current rules, like a lack of understanding or unfamiliarity with the current rules as opposed to changes that the State Library is proposing. So we are currently engaged in updating our analysis of the revision and how it affects Rails. That's almost done. We are looking very specifically at the reciprocal borrowing related areas because we want to be sure that we can help members understand that this has been the rule or the policy all along. This is not a change, and if nothing else, this discussion certainly did highlight a lot of misunderstandings and lack of information known about the rules that certainly Rails is going to be working on with Heartland and the State Library. So there was, as I said, a lot of discussion at the committee meeting. A lot of different suggestions were made by members and by staff at the State Library. There's one suggestion that public hearings may be held around the state during the formal review process, which I think is a really good idea because I think it will, reinforce the kind of the transparency of the whole process and make sure that libraries are get an opportunity to ask questions and et cetera. So at this point, we're just waiting, I guess. I don't know. Do you want to add anything, Anne, at this point?
You did a great job, Dee. Really. Great job.
Thank you. All right. I guess that's a no. Any questions from anybody? Anywhere?
Dee, it's Kate in Burr Ridge. I actually have a question for Anne. So Anne, I was just wondering, I've been watching the the Illinois Register on Fridays, and I'm just curious if you have any idea of when that might be published. I know at the ISLAC meeting you had said that it can sometimes take a little bit of time. I'm just curious if you have an update on when specifically we might see it, when that formal review process might begin.
I think I mentioned at the meeting that after ISLAC, there were a number of eyes in the Secretary's office that did need to see it. So that's where we are right now. We're still in the review process. When we do submit it to the Register, we will let the library community know. So, Kate, you can continue to watch the Illinois Register, or you can watch our e-news. I'm hoping that e-news is infinitely more interesting, unless you want to look at the rules about fracking and the rules about fracking. Yes, that's the thing in the Register, I think. So anyway, we still have a lot of. Well, not a lot, but there is some internal revision, or not revision, review of the changes that were endorsed.
So, are we talking like a couple months? Like just even like a broad that I will not hold you to, but just to kind of get the idea.
Just relentless.
A year with a 2 and a 0.
I like it.
We're hopeful that it will be soon. We're hopeful that it will be soon. And Dee, you're absolutely right. There is much misunderstanding about reciprocal borrowing and the current rules for reciprocal borrowing. And I think all of us here, and probably the library system staff, we live in the administrative rules, and so we forget how really it does take careful reading and careful attention. And I think it's great that conversation got started, and that libraries around the state are reading the rules, paying attention. I think it's wonderful. So we need to clarify a number of misunderstandings about reciprocal borrowing, non-residents, et cetera, et cetera. So in the current rules, things that aren't changing in the revision. So
Exactly. Exactly.
I noticed in the plan of service, the small section that was about reciprocal borrowing, basically all that was said is it is so complex that you didn't even get to like grabbing the data and the figures and what are all those barriers. Just the local libraries, are they collecting the data appropriately, or the tools, or
a big part of the complexity, especially as compared to the predecessor systems, is just that we have so many public libraries that the volume of the data alone makes it complex, and the various consortia have set up their systems differently over the years, so it's not something where we can easily compare apples to apples.
Yeah, that section basically said we just can't get our arms around it.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because we would
yeah,
really love to be able to get our arms around it, but as we delved in, it was clear that I don't want to say anybody's reporting it incorrectly, but they're certainly reporting it differently, and to be able to actually draw a correct, to really this, A in this column matches A or something else in another column. it's a big job. Yeah, so.
That seemed to be the gist of
Yep.
it.
Yep. So that's all I have to
Any
say
other-
at this point, unless anybody has any more questions.
If there aren't any other questions, the next item on the agenda is item number 10, Rails Board Member Reports. Are there any board member reports for Ridge?
I'm really just curious who is going to ILA on the board. I'm just curious. Oh, okay, great. No. Anyone at East Peoria?
Who in East Peoria is going to ILA?
Karen? John Sayers? I am. Jane is.
Any board member reports from East Peoria?
Nope.
Board member in Wheeling?
Board member.
No, thank you.
And board member in Coal Valley?
Nothing more, thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the agenda building for the next Rails board meeting. Does anybody have any agenda building items?
We will
No
be
agenda
discussing, we will be having policy and operations that day.
Okay,
So we
they
will
will be
have
on
items.
the agenda. The meeting
Yes.
will be here in the Ridge. Any other items?
The 24th.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
Mary Jo seconded.
By Mary Jo.
Finally,
Thank you,
a
Mary
word- a
Jo.
word from this corner. Yeah, finally, had to get ours.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, I think this is a record.
It's got
Is
to
a
be,
record.
yeah.
Man, I like it.
Well, you said you wanted to be out of here.
And I'm
He's
starting to
been
fall
trying
asleep.
to accommodate you.
I'm starting to fall asleep. It's the nice weather.